Roy pressed the button again and the wheel started spinning. When it finally stopped, it landed on Capture the Flag! We played this in gym sometimes in middle school. I wasn't an expert or anything, but I at least knew how to play the game. There are 32 of you left, so you'll split into 2 teams of 16. Whichever team gets both flags in their base first wins. Interesting. So not only did you need to bring back the enemy flag, you had to keep yours in the base too. You'll have 15 minutes to pick your teams and start strategizing. Then the next round will start. We were picking our own teams? I didn't expect that. Of course, Bryce, Trista, and I all turned towards each other right away, but that was only 3. We needed 13 more. As we scanned the stadium, I saw Rowley and his friends talking amongst themselves. Part of me was surprised he had made it this far, but I also knew that after everything he'd been through, apparently he had at least some skill. You know what I'm going to ask, don't you? Of course, Rowley agreed to join my team. Counting his friends, we now had 8. A minute later, Holly pointed another group standing off to the side. Those are some of the kids from Class 1B. Class 1B is another hero course class, but nobody I know is in it. Still, it made sense to have as many hero course kids in our group as possible, so Rowley and Holly went over to invite them. That brought us up to 13. We picked up a couple of stranglers, and finally we had our group. All we really had time to do after that was go over everyone's quirks. Shirag and Patty seemed like they could be useful, since Shirag could turn invisible and Patty could turn into something really small like a fly. Alright, let's get started! Good luck! Each group headed over to either side of the stadium. There were lines for the bases and boundary drawn onto the stadium, so it looked like this. Once we were all on our side of the arena, we all gathered around our flag. We had to decide who was going to be on the defense, and of course nobody wanted to do it. Ruby Bird! Quirk! Chomp! Her front tooth is incredibly sharp and durable, allowing her to bite down on almost anything. She can also increase her size of her tooth, allowing her to chew through things or even swing off objects. Have you ever heard of Among Us? Look, if we just... what about we do this? Guys! The arena is completely empty, so the only things that matter are speed and a strong defense. Since a lot of us are from different classes, we should start by introducing our quirks. The 16 of us described our quirk. Everyone had a quirk except Rowley, which I guess is a good thing. Alright, it seems like Holly, Bryce, Fregley, and Greg are our best defenders. Yeah, and Shirag, Patty, and Colin pretty much have stealth covered, but at least one of them should help with jailbreaking too. The rest of us can hover around the middle, try to prevent them from crossing over to our side, and go for the flag if you see an opening. With that, we were ready to go. As much as I hated to admit it, Rowley and I made a half-decent team. The other 3 defenders and I stayed at the flag while everyone else headed to their various positions. It was me, Bryce, Holly, and one other kid from Class 1B. His name was Fregley, and he apparently had the quirk of storing stuff in his belly button. Apparently he could also shoot it out, which gave me an idea. Fregley, how fast does stuff come shooting out of your belly button? About the speed of a squirrel. Weird comparison aside, that was fast enough for my plan. I took out my notebook and started drawing. After a minute, I had about 10 of those balls I had drawn earlier with Jake. Fregley, catch! I watched in amazement as each of the balls I threw got sucked into his belly button and disappeared. Man, that sounds like somebody shoving a dick directly into her vagina, balls and all. You know what, never mind. No, that was too far. With Fregley ready to go, I started thinking of traps we could set. But before I could do anything, a voice rang out over the stadium. If you get tagged with both hands on the opposing team's territory, you must be escorted to their jail. You can only leave if your teammate frees you. Now, let the games begin! Colin Lee, quirk, Humorph. If he has some piece of another person's DNA on him, like hair, fingernails, or skin, he can temporarily transform his body into them. The amount of time he can maintain their appearance is proportional to the amount of DNA he has on him. The game started and the attackers approached the boundary line. Unsurprisingly, nobody ran at first. I guess they were waiting for an opening to get the flag. Suddenly, I saw something on one of the screens. "McCoy is off! Good luck catching up to this speedster, Team A!" I looked down to see him running right towards us, fast. The kid had to be going at least 30 miles per hour. That must have been his quirk. I got ready to do something, but Holly stopped me. "Don't worry, I got this." That McCoy guy was going to reach us in about 5 seconds, and I had no idea what Holly was going to do. But as he ran up to us, Holly trapped him in a block of solid air. She tagged him with 2 hands, then let the air evaporate again. I offered to take the guy to our jail, and so I started escorting him over the corner of the arena as the other 3 defenders waited behind. As I walked in, I saw I Am Spooky standing just out of bounds. I guess he was one of the referees to make sure McCoy didn't make a break for it now that he was captured. I took McCoy back to our jail where Alex Aruda was waiting. His quirk was pretty much useless in combat, so he was stuck with guard duty. Suddenly, I saw another kid running towards our flag. I hurried over to stop her, but before I could get anywhere close, Fregley took care of it. Shot a couple of balls down her stomach. After a couple of shots, she was down, and Fregley tagged her. As they walked back to the jail, I saw 2 figures walking towards us. It was Rowley with one of the enemy teammates with him. "I got another one for you." Suddenly, we saw something on the screen. Abigail had tried to run, but she got stopped by one of the enemies. Rowley started to run back, but I stopped him. "Rowley, wait! I gotta get out on offense." "No! We need strong defenders like you back here." But I'm not a fucking strong defender. I'm totally useless out here." But Rowley was already gone. "Alex Aruda, quirk, ruler. By looking at any object, he can measure its dimensions and volumes. Though it has no combat purpose, it is helpful in the business course." As I stood guarding our flag, I watched as my teammates got caught one by one. Ruby charged straight for the flag, but got taken down. One of our other guys who had joined our team barely even passed the boundary before getting tagged. Shirag actually had a pretty decent strategy, but once the enemies realized their flag was moving on its own, that was the end of that. It had been a while since any of our enemy's team's people had run. It seemed like they were hanging back on defense so they could thin our numbers. Suddenly I saw someone running on the screen. It was Rowley. 2 of the Team B guys started chasing him, but he was faster. But when he got near the flag, he was surrounded. I didn't even have time to focus on that because I saw somebody out of the corner of my eye. "Jailbreak!" Shoot. Leaving Alex in charge of the jail might not have been the best idea. Almost half of our guys were gone, and now the other team had all of their members. I knew we had to do something quick. "Alex, I need you to help me gather up everyone who hasn't been captured yet." We went around and brought everyone back where we were guarding our flag. The other team's attackers hovered by the boundary lines. They probably didn't want to attack with so many people near the flag. "Guys, I have a plan." After a few minutes, we were ready. First, we all cleared out of the way of the flag, except for Bryce. Soon the other team saw their opportunity and a bunch of kids started running to grab our flag, but that's exactly what we had planned. "Hey, did you guys know that if you bring your flag back here, you win?" The kids turned around and started heading back towards their flag. As confusion erupted near the other team's flag, we started the next stage of our plan. "Fregley, quirk, secret freckle. His belly button serves as a sort of pocket dimension, allowing him to store much larger objects inside. He can also shoot the objects back out at high speed, making them effective projectiles." All of the other team's attackers were hypnotized by Bryce, except for one. Holly had her trapped in a block of solid air, and she was going to be essential for our plan. I took out my notebook and drew a pair of scissors. "Sorry about this, Shelly." Colin Lee's quirk is that he can transform into other people, but he needs a piece of their DNA to do it. Luckily, hair seemed to do the trick, and within a few seconds, well, how do I look? There was one more thing we had to do. Angie used her quirk on Colin, and after a few seconds, he was filled with energy. "Whoa, this feels great. I feel like I could run a marathon." With that, disguised Colin head into the enemy's team territory. Even if the other team tagged him by accident, he would get eliminated, so he had to be careful. As Colin tried his best to act natural, Fregley and Holly stood by on backup. The rest of us watched on the screens with bated breath. I could hear a few audience members trying to warn the other teams, but overall the noise I doubt they could hear. Plus, with all the chaos going on at their flag, they probably weren't focused on the audience at all. We watched on screen as Colin made his move. By the time the other team caught on, Colin burst into a sprint. Thanks to Angie's quirk, he was extra fast. Even Ronnie McCoy was too far away to catch up. Suddenly, Joshy's voice rang over the stadium. "I don't believe it! Team A wins an incredibly creative victory! Congratulations!" I couldn't believe it. We had won. We were moving on to the final round. Colin reverted back to his regular body just as he came back to the rest of the group. As we all cheered, Joshy started speaking again. "Well, you know what time it is, folks. Our final round, the tournament." That's right. This is the battle of for all marbles. The 16 of us will be fighting to be the sports festival champion. After our lunch break, Ronnie McCoy, quirk, speedster. His quirk gives him incredible leg strength, allowing him to run at speeds of up to 30 miles per hour. He can also turn his strength into powerful kicks, making it useful on offense as well.